And hello, everybody, to another episode of Stallions Run. I'm, of course, Buck, here with you today with Stallions offensive tackle Michael Rodriguez. Michael, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Buck.
It's no problem. So, I guess let's go ahead and start talking about your career a little bit. Of course, Stallions fans might recognize your name. You were with the Stallions last year. You were a part of the championship team. I guess a little bit before we kind of come back to the idea, I guess in simple thoughts before we get into the meat and kind of the story, simple words, what was the championship like?
It was awesome. It was electric. It was a sold out crowd. It was a dream that every football player wants to have for a championship setting.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, of course, I wish everything was in Birmingham like it was last year, but from I didn't get a chance to go, but it sounded like the crowd was amazing, and it sounded like there was a bunch of Stallions fans that came up the road
Right.
to go. So that sounded like a fun atmosphere. But I guess we kind of talked about the championship just now, but let's go back. Let's
Mhm.
talk about Louisiana Tech. I guess you kind of tell me the story because you're someone who, at the moment, you kind of been tethered to both Jamar Smith
Mhm.
and Skip Holtz, and basically kind of an entire, I guess, class of Louisiana Tech football. So, kind of, how did you get to know Skip Holtz and kind of get to know your coach, basically?
So, my first time meeting Skip was at the in home visits, and we ordered Gringos. It's a Mexican restaurant, and it felt like it was more of my parents talking while Skip and Coach Moore were eating fajitas and enchiladas. And so my first impression was, man, this man can eat. And so that was the first impression. Then we went over to the visit that February, and it was more personable. Got to actually interact with him more, and I knew that he was a mentor and someone that I would want in my corner forever. Someone to be my coach, and that's what really set it for me was the relationship and the connection that we had from the jump. And then throughout the whole career there at Tech, he was a fantastic leader for all of us. And so Skip's had my utmost respect from Louisiana Tech to now.
Yeah, I mean, no one really talks about kind of Skip's, I guess, career almost in Louisiana Tech because, I mean, he had quite the team there, and it's something that I think we're now kind of starting like really seeing blossom, kind of in the pro setting, and people are going back and doing a retrospective look of, wow, look at kind of the talent that was on these rosters. It's kind of amazing what was there. But I do have one question. I don't know. I don't know this. If I have not been able to go back and check yet. It's kind of a question that popped into my mind.
Mhm.
Were you on the field for 3 and 93?
I was on the field. I was at right tackle. I was on. It was a counter play, and yeah, I was there.
I'm sorry. I just that popped into my head. I was like, oh no, should I ask it? It's
I've
just
got like a thread on my Twitter of constantly replying to every time I see the video on Twitter. Will this ever end? And apparently, it's not going to.
no, no. It's not. And I guess I get to get added to it. So,
Right.
but I kind of, I guess moving past that, I guess kind of something I always like to ask people, and this is it's different for each person who does kind of the offensive line kind of group. What's it like dealing with you're going into from a college style and transitioning to more of a pro style of football? I guess kind of the mindset difference and all that.
Um, well, physically, it's different. In college, I could get away with being an undersized guy. In college, my playing was around 290 versus my professional career. You realize quick that you cannot be underweight and perform as well. You step into locker rooms and you see guys that are look like they're straight out of movies, like they're just the largest human beings you could ever imagine. And then there's skinny old you thinking, I should probably eat more. So mentally, it starts off as intimidating, but then you realize that you are capable of being that size too. So you just got to buckle up your pants and get ready to go if you actually want to be a professional.
Oh yeah, I mean, I again, like I said, everyone does everything a little bit different, but it's always like it's always almost the same story almost, and I'm not someone who's ever going to experience kind of a pro career or any kind of. I've never made that jump, but it's
Right.
almost like it's you say it in kind of I guess I'm repeating myself, but I'm trying to say is everyone kind of has that jump where they're like, oh, I'm playing with the big boys now, and that's always an interesting idea, and everyone explains it a little bit differently.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's definitely a huge difference there. Everyone's fast, everyone's strong. It's like that in college too, but then literally everyone is fast and strong. Linebackers that are 6'4", 6'5" versus 6'2", 6'3". You're just going to see freaks of nature everywhere.
right. Yeah. Man, it's crazy. Yeah, seeing you all look at the college comparison and then now. But moving on. So I guess what's your USFL story? We're past college. We're past kind of the transition. You're now heading into the USFL. Kind of lead us as kind of like a viewer into that.
Well, so it started off in the spring league. That was owned or operated by the guy who was in charge of the USFL.
Right, Brian Woods.
Yes. And so after game 1 or 2, they came into our meeting room and told us, "Hey, we are going to. We actually have gotten the approval for the USFL next year. So for you guys who have aspirations to play in a professional league, this is the time to show that you can play." And so that's when it started, and I really was in full go there. And I mean, I went into the spring league wanting to show what I could do for the NFL, but now there's more of the option for the USFL. And I made the connections with coaches that I can make sure my name was spread well. And so that was back in, I think, April or May. And so from then on, I was training like I was going to get drafted or picked up in the USFL or the NFL, of course. And so got some more buzz, started getting calls from teams from the USFL asking about my weight and stuff like that if I can play. And so I would say yes. And then came draft week. I was nervous. I wasn't really sure. I had only gotten a call from a few teams. And then it's kind of a funny story. I was sitting there on my computer and just scrolling through Twitter, looking at USFL draft feeds and watching a stream on YouTube. And my phone starts going off, and it's all my friends texting me congratulations. And I was like, "What happened?" And then finally, it pops up on the stream I'm watching. I'm like, "Oh, damn! I got drafted by the Philadelphia Stars."
Right.
And then I'm reading all these tweets. It's like, "Well, where's my phone call?" And so finally, a few picks go by, and turns out I missed the call. And
Oh,
I listened to the voicemail. He calls me back. We start chatting, and then Coach Holt calls me. He was like, "Dang it, man! I was going to take you with the next pick." And I was
oh man.
like, man. And so going forward, I was with the Stars for a few weeks in camp, and I got injured. I hurt my hamstring,
Hmm.
and so I was released there. And then I signed with the Stallions in week 6 when I became healthy, and was with the Stallions since.
Right. I mean, you talk about that. There's been you're not the first one to say that. There's was I'm trying to remember which kicker it was. I want to think it was Brandon, who, of course, Brandon Aubrey,
Right,
who had the same story, kind of like okay, where's the call? Where's the call? And then it popped up on Twitter first, and then the call came in. It's just one of those things where it's like, oh,
right,
but you don't have to worry about that this upcoming season. So something you can enjoy.
right,
Um, but let's, I guess, coming in, you are starting with the Stallions. Of course, like I talked about just earlier, you have the familiar connection. You're playing with guys you've played with before,
right.
but you're also playing with new guys. I guess what's kind of that idea of okay, I know what this guy's going to do. I don't know what this guy's going to do. How does that mindset change?
Well, with being familiar with the system, I'd like to bring them in because we all have the same goal of winning a championship and being on a winning team. So I want to help them as much as I can with the system, get them familiar with the plays, and also compete with them at the same time because we are trying to all win a spot. And so there's not really any ill nature to it, but I am excited to meet my new teammates and be back with my brothers from last season as well.
Hmm. So yeah, you kind of like okay, we're working, we got to eat,
Right.
so something you have to deal with there. All right, so I asked this. So your future teammate Derwin Gray, I asked this with him, kind of how do you deal with running backs because you have someone who's trying to get the ball. past you, but at the same
Mhm.
time, you're trying to create the hole. So, do
Right.
you prefer a patient running back or a one that is willing to run over you to get that first down?
As much as it hurts to get hit in the back by a running back, especially someone both sides, I'd rather them just get the yards and just hit me in the back. That's what it takes. But if
Uh,
if they can, maybe, juke right or left, hit the hole cleanly. But if I'm in the way, it's probably my fault. So I'll take
all
it.
right. When you say that, what is the worst hit you've taken from your own teammate?
Oh my goodness. You wouldn't believe this story if I told you, but I have the video. And
Oh,
I'm going to shout out my old teammate, Dwight Stallworth. He was the right tackle when I was at left in college at Tech. And his job was to pull around and go behind me or hit the hole to lead the way for the back. And in the midst of going inside the hole and inserting, he inserted into my helmet.
oh,
It was pretty bad. The video is pretty fun.
I can't. How did that? Like, oh man, I can. I'm probably thinking for the rest of the game. Please don't please don't hit my helmet again. Please don't
Yeah.
do that.
If the NFL's
Yeah,
concussion protocol now was there, they would have saw me do the whole and
yeah,
probably got me off the field. But luckily, or not luckily, we didn't have.
yeah, yeah. That's one thing, but um, I guess just one more kind of question.
Mhm.
With I guess I don't know how to describe this question because you word it for different people, and it's not personal, but at the same time, it kind of is.
Mhm.
You're kind of, I guess, the idea is you're kind of in a scenario of you're in a must win scenario. Of course, your offensive line, you're basically your job is either stop or create hole.
Mhm.
I guess in your ideal situation, let's say you're in. I'm going to say let's say it's you're at the 5 yard lines, first and goal. Or no, let's change the scenario. Fourth and goal.
Okay.
What's your ideal play, and how do you kind of orchestrate that as someone who's maybe leading the offensive line, and you're trying to make sure this play happens?
Is it 4th and 5 in goal?
Yeah, fourth and 5 and goal. You're at the 5 yard line.
The 5 yard line, I would trust a nice spread.
Hmm.
Uh, I would say get some slants or maybe an out, maybe a dig, something like that. Let us give him time. Let us get our playmaker to show us what he can do. I prefer the pass on the 4th and 5 for sure.
Ooh, that's an interesting choice because I personally, what I would do is I would trust my running back. I would create kind of the hole, and I would say, okay, you know, we just need to get that space. Again, there's the thing. It also depends on the running back. If you have a bow in play at the time, you
Right.
know, maybe you try to basically just create a lane. But if you have someone like CJ, different story.
Right.
So that's just kind of my thing. But so we've kind of told the USFL side of your story now.
Mhm.
Let's talk about move on from regular season to the playoffs. How did that change of atmosphere affect you guys? I guess, and how did it like? I guess what was it like having to go from Birmingham now you're in Canton?
Well, you have to be a professional and set aside the distractions. You need to be able to let yourself have fun, which I'm a advocate for. But there's a time for fun. There's a time for business, and I think that my teammates and I did a really good job of separating the times. When it was time to practice, we were at practice, and when it was time to have fun, we would have fun, and we never let them intersect. So I think that when we got to Canton, it was all cameras out, cameras on us kind of thing. But when we were strapping it up, it was time to go. And that's what really set us apart.
Hey, and it truly showed because now you guys have a ring to go along with that appearance. So
Right.
hey,
Yeah.
you gotta take that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Definitely very proud of
All
it.
right. So with season two now coming up, we got the news today. We now have 4 hubs in the USFL.
Right.
Take the Birmingham hub out. Where are you most excited to play?
Um, Probably either Canton again because the atmosphere was fantastic and we clearly had a nice little crowd there, or Detroit because I've never been that far north.
Oh
Very
man,
close.
so you excited to play it in Ford Field?
Yes, it's going to be
Uh,
awesome.
yeah, I'm like I'm mixed because Ford Field is probably going to be amazing, and I'm probably setting aside. I'm going to try to figure out a way to get up there 100%. Or
Mhm.
but Memphis though, because those are two cities. Birmingham and Memphis are two cities that are not fans of each other.
Right,
So like that's gonna be like,
right.
for me. All
Yeah.
right. I guess one final thing. I guess you kind of tell us kind of your post football idea of life. I guess what would you be looking forward to past a football career?
Well, really, I see football as my life going forward. Um, I think it gives me a platform to spread the things that I like, and it helps develop people. It helps develop men and women. And as looking forward as far as I can, I would like to be a coach. Um, I've had some great coaches, great men and women in my life who have shown me principles that I should distill into myself and others. And I hope that I can give what I've learned to other people,
Hmm.
uh, kids, and grown men, whatever I end up doing. I just want to be a coach for football.
Oh man. So, I mean, of course, head coach, OC, probably. You know, I guess what would be your kind of preferred position? Would you like to work with straight offensive line guys, or would you maybe work with another set of guys? Like,
Yeah, I would like to be versatile. I'd like to maybe be an OC one day, but the Hogs you get in an offensive line room, there's just so much personality. You're not going to have the same person in your bunch. I think that working with some O linemen that I could take to a local buffet and eat with, chill, and talk game. I think that would be prefer what I prefer.
hey, man, you gotta get those calories in them. I don't. Yeah, you gotta just eat. All
Definitely.
right. Well, I guess in our final moments, go and promote yourself. Where can everyone find you besides on the field when it comes to Stallion game days?
Instagram, Twitter underscore Michael R14. That's really where I'm at daily. So I don't really post much, but I am there. So if you'd like to reach me, just hit me up.
All right. Well, thank you, Michael, for coming on this episode of Stallions Run. And guys, we shall see you next week